Yeah, what's up, people? This is Since Media. I really wasn't going to do any more of this. I was really going to move on to something else, but I just watched this video. This video by Music Theory for Guitar. I'm going to put a link in the description. Great video, all about secondary diminished chords. So what's a secondary diminished chord? Well, a secondary diminished chord is like this. Right? So it's almost like, and then everything is just down by half step. That's your major seventh. Take everything except the root notes down by half. You get your diminished seventh. Right? So the trick, and I highly recommend watching this great video. I'll put a link in the description by Music Theory for Guitar. He just points out that if you put a diminished seventh, one semitone, whatever chord you want to go to, if you play a secondary a diminished seventh, one semitone below that chord you're going to, it sounds a great transition. Sounds really good, and as he puts it, your classical stuff sounds more classical and your jazzy stuff sounds more jazzy. So I couldn't resist. I had to throw that in Sonic Pi. And so the code is really simple. I just added this clause here. If you've been following the other videos, you should recognize this by now. This is really controversial. How do I recognize? What's really controversial? How to represent this? I chose to just use the numbers 61 to 67 to mean the secondary diminished of chords 1 to 7. It was easy to implement. I think I'm going to be able to remember it. That 6 has nothing to do with traditional music notation or way of thinking about things. If you don't like it and you've got a better idea, please leave me a comment, because I don't like it either. I'm kind of embarrassed. I just did it. It's a hack. It works. It works for me. So I've just gone with it. So literally, I'm going to represent these. Let's say I'm going to chord 3. I'm going to represent the diminished seventh, one semitone below the 3 that will resolve to the 3 as the number 63. I'm not happy. You're probably, if you know anything about music theory, you're probably furious. But, please give me something better, if there is something better. But it works. So let me just show you the code here quickly. As usual, we've sent the number 63 when we really mean 3. So we're just going to subtract the 60 from it. If that doesn't make any sense to you at all, but you are a programmer and you are getting into Sonic Pi, check the first video where this gets explained in a lot more detail. Then we're going to find out what the root of the chord we're really going. Let's say we're going to chord 3, right? We're going to find out the root of the chord 3, the 3 chord, by calling this Sonic Pi degree function with the number 3 here and the tonic and the mode we're in. But we really want to build the chord one half step down from it, one semitone down from it. So now I say that root equals C root minus 1. So we're just going one half step down, and now we're building the chord, which is a diminished seventh that starts on that root. Now, if this is all just completely meaningless to you, see a couple of the previous videos where I explain a lot more about how this function works. The point of this function here, it's quite a long function now, although it's still not, I think, that hard to understand if you just follow through, is that it lets us talk about our chords not in terms of their absolute names, like C major seventh or whatever, but in terms of the numerical degree, which is what we tend to use when we kind of analyze and think about this. So rather than us having to take those degree notes and translate them into the real chords, the computer's doing that for us. So here's a simple chord sequence. Right now, G3 major, we're playing the tonic, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the subdominant, the 6 chord, which is the submedian, I think, and then the 5 chord, which is the dominant. and we are sending it by MIDI into this keyboard here in FL Studio. This is how it sounds. I haven't started, not started doing any of these diminished yet. So take a simplest chord sequence, chord progression like that, and what we're going to do is we're going to put in these diminished that are going to resolve to that. So before the 4 we're going to put in a 6/4, and before the 6 we're going to put in a 6/6, and before the 5 we'll put in a 6/5, and then before the 1 we'll put in a 6/1. Right, so here's how that sounds now. Right, one chord. 4, 5, 6. Oh no. It's 4, 6, 5, 1. Now look at the chords between. Those are 7. Those are diminished sevenths. And they all work. They all work in this this chord progression for taking you on to the next chord. So that works just really well. I mean, that's all in this video. This video explains how you do it. Obviously, he's teaching it to guitarists. We're doing it for Sonic Pi, but everything in the theory is really here. So just watch this video. Highly recommend it. The code was just, again, straightforward to throw in. It's given us yet another bit of interest. This. So just to listen to this again. So I find this fall down to the 6/1 hit, this diminished that's leading to the 1, a bit too low. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do the second inversion of it. It's actually almost the same, isn't it? Let's see if it is the same chord. Not quite the same chord, but sharing more notes, so it's a smoother. There. So, if you don't know what this is about, the last video talked about the chord inversions and how we're using. Whenever we put numbers in to represent chords normally, but if we want an inverted chord, we just put in this subarray. The chord we really want is the 6/1 chord, is this one I'm representing with the number 6/1, but I'm asking for the second inversion of it. The other one I tried doing, as the video guy says, they can make your jazzy chord sound jazzier if we're using sevenths. So let's make all these sevenths for a second. Hear how this sounds. You get the idea of this, right? I mean, you look at those chords. Those are chords that, you know, you've got to be a sophisticated keyboard player or jazz kind of play, you know, someone to understand how to play and compose with those chords. You've got to normally learn a lot of music theory. And here we are using tricks, right? I mean, we are using codes to make it easy to, or simple for us to represent these things, and we can kind of start to play with them and learn about them without having to have mastered, let's say, that level of sophistication. You know, I'm not decrying, you know, if you want to go and be a keyboard player or guitar player, then go learn that stuff. I think it's wonderful to be that and to be a musician like that. I'm just teaching it in the context of Sonic Pi to people who can't necessarily play those things, but we're using Sonic Pi to just kind of get a feel for making music and composing, because we can play around with these chords and say, well, what would happen if I inverted this now? So what would happen if I invert this thing I've got here? Well, I'll just put it in its first inversion. How does that sound? So, you know, we've just made something. What would happen if I decided I was going to make this do a bit of modal interchange? We're in a major key here, but what would happen if I invert that sixth, take it from the parallel minor? We've got a lot of expressive power here. So that's it. Very quick one. I really wasn't thinking of doing that. I just came across this video. I saw the trick. Just any chord you need to go to, put this diminished in, and it gives you that vibe. And couldn't resist just coding it up to see what it would be like to code it up. And yeah, it's just one more flavour, isn't it? It's just one more thing we can do now in our chord progressions. Right, that's it. Thanks very much for watching, and next time I will be back with a video about something else. I'm not going away from Sonic Pi at all in general, but we are going to do some other topics as well. Just couldn't resist doing that. Thanks for watching.